Hey, on my Travel Ones podcast, I'm looking at Vanessa Demopoulos. Did I say that name correctly, Vanessa?
You did.
Demopoulos. I'm getting good at the Greek names. Don't know why.
Opa.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing today?
I'm enjoying the warmer weather finally. It feels like it's almost starting to become summertime. So that's nice.
Yeah, I thought it was coming off the plane from Ohio. It's cold over there.
You can keep it. I noticed you my whole family except for myself was born in Cleveland.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's where I was born. That's where I'm from.
That's why when I saw your phone number, I'm like, oh, I know that. All my aunts and uncles are still back there, so I'm like, I know the area code.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. As my dad,
a lot better over here in the sunny state, though.
My dad and mom, they like to say I was conceived in Cleveland, but I was born in Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
And because they moved, my sister was a little bit older and she was having asthma problems. And they said the cold weather was irritating inflaming the asthma. So they moved to Phoenix because she was pregnant with me. So, but yeah, I don't mind visiting. I just don't want to live there.
Right. Nope. Yeah. Yeah, it was rough growing up over there in all that cold weather, walking through the snow every day. But you know what? They say it builds character, so I'll take it for that.
There you go. Well, for my listeners that don't know, Vanessa's a professional fighter, which is very cool. MMA. I have your record at 4-1. Your pro record and your amateur record was like 3-1 or 3-2 or something to that effect.
Yeah, 6-1.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, it's okay.
My bad. I was just going off the sure dog. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yep. 6-1 as an amateur. I'm currently 4-1 as a professional with the LFA.
You know, it's cool because I talked to Ed Soares, the CEO of LFA, a couple weeks ago. And so now it's nice to hear the fighter end of why LFA is successful and how if you've enjoyed fighting for LFA and how do you perceive perceive that? As far as I know, everyone wants to be in Bellator or UFC, but how do you perceive the smaller events as you're getting better? Yeah,
this is a perfect storm to prep fighters and breed them for the larger organizations like Bellator and UFC. And, just being a part of LFA, it's an honor because people recognize the LFA as a rising star promotion.
Sure.
It's like once you start to make it in the LFA, like that you're going to go on to do well in the bigger leagues. And LFA really grooms their fighters to be that way. So it's really cool to be a part of an organization that's known for this.
Well, and you started your training in Ohio, but you're now training with Black House, right?
That's correct. Yep. Yeah.
So how big of I'm just curious, how big of a change is that? I mean, obviously different level of competition, new coaches and all that, but is it just great to get a whole new influx of, input from the coaches?
100%. Yeah. Being out in Ohio, I've really felt, and I love Ohio.
Well, you got Stipe.
Yeah, we got Stipe. And I train in Columbus, Ohio. I was living in Cleveland and training in Columbus. So I was driving 2 hours just to get my training in every day. And it's like, I had the best coaches out there, but I didn't have enough partners. I didn't have training partners that I needed. So like I had good jiu-jitsu partners. I had good Muay Thai partners, but I felt kind of like I was on a little bit of an island when it came to MMA.
Sure.
And coming out here and being a part of Black House, which is, world renowned for their skill, it's a huge shift. I have a lot of partners that are close to my size as well as their skill levels are just like UFC level. To have them, accessible daily to be able to train with and just grow together. Like you can't get something like that from watching YouTube, or trying to study. Like you need it. You need it tangible. You need it like in person.
Well, obviously training with people like Carla Esparza, you don't get that everywhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Especially getting to wrestle with Carla. She's got the best wrestling and female MMA right now. So it's a huge honor to be her training partner for that.
Okay, so you're a brown belt in jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question for you. This is just between me and you. My listeners won't hear this part.
What's up?
I've never seen anybody pull guard so much, in an MMA fight.
MMA fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like doing that, and my coaches bite their nails every time. This is what happens when you take a competitive jiu-jitsu person, like someone who's really pure competitive jiu-jitsu, and throw them into MMA. I spent a few years traveling the world competing in jiu-jitsu, and I was doing, tournaments, which it's like, you're not fighting just one person. Like, you don't sit there and study someone. You're fighting, 7 to 10 times in a day, give or take. And it's like you're doing tournaments from people in your weight class, as well as I compete in open class as well. So, I mean, that was my thing, like I just pull guard, and my guard is like impeccably good. Yeah. And I'm so confident from there, and that's what I'm comfortable with. So, being at Black House, I get to train with Carla in wrestling and Kenny Johnson, and I do feel confident in my wrestling. Sometimes I'm just like, fuck, like, let's just go to the ground. Like, I'm not ready.
Let's just see what happens down here.
Yeah, come play with me. Yeah.
Your last fight was a barn burner.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that last fight was a wild one. That was crazy.
I'm going to say her name wrong, but Laveth Patra Young, who was a Muay Thai girl. Mm-hmm. And she made you stand up for the first round. So,
yeah, she did.
It was like, I don't want to be here no more.
Yeah, I don't even think I even tried to get a takedown on her at all that first round. But yeah, she was tearing me up. She actually, my orbital bone refractured in the first 30 seconds of that fight. Then I just kind of kept pushing on through until the end. So it was
with a win.
It was good. So, with the win.
Oh, man, I'm trying to think. When you had your 2-hour drive from Cleveland down to Columbus, what would you do to fill time? Would you just listen to music, or would you listen to podcasts? How would you fill that time?
I'm huge on audiobooks.
Okay, perfect.
I'm really big on audiobooks, and I'm really big on staying in touch with people. One of the things with traveling so often and so much, is you meet really cool people and, all around the country, all around the world. And I love being able to stay in touch with them. I am on the road a lot. And even living here in LA, it's like about an hour commute anywhere you want to go, 2 hours sometimes to some of my gyms. So like I do take that time to listen to a lot of audiobooks and educate myself on the things I need. And B, I call people a lot, and I spend a lot of time talking to people who I care about. And that's really important to me.
Well, you also read a lot of books too, though. But just when you're driving, you listen to audiobooks.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I do read a lot of books. I like the physical books. Yeah, the audiobooks kind of fly the time as well.
That's cool, though. You're also an author. You wrote the Stripper Bible, and traveling for that as well. I mean, you're always on the road. I mean, how many days a year do you think you're, over the last 5 years, did you average on the road between fighting and the stripping?
Oh, you mean every single day? Yeah, it's, well, like I currently live in Los Angeles, but I dance in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So that's about a 4-hour over 4-hour commute, just to go to work on weekends. And, that gets me out of LA, but it's crazy. It's crazy to work in a different city, a different state than what you live in. And this wasn't really too different from when I lived in Ohio. I used to work as an entertainer up in Cleveland, and then I would train as a fighter down in Columbus. And that's only a 2-hour commute, gotcha. 2.5 hours. So everything is still the same for me out here that it was over in Ohio.
Just further.
The time is all extended. Yeah. Which is crazy, but it's worth it every single time.
I hope you don't drive home from Vegas on Sunday nights. It's got to be.
Yeah, I do.
I hate that commute. It turns a 4-hour drive into a 6-hour drive sometimes. Yeah,
it does. It's terrible. Everybody does it too. It's like, it's wild to see how many people go out to Vegas every single weekend, because every weekend it's like, bumper to bumper traffic.
Well, now I worked there during the rodeo, which is the first 2 weeks of December. And
yeah, I was there.
And I can technically come home Sunday night because the rodeo ends Saturday night. But I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to wait till Monday. I just, I'll work a little on Sunday and then get a good rest and then just come up because I hate that drive. Sitting.
Yeah. And I mean, that would be the best thing. But as a fighter, I don't have that luxury. I essentially have, fighting is my full-time job. So I train 3 to 4 times a day, every single day, Monday through Friday. And then I drive out to Vegas and I work all weekend long, usually 8-hour shifts. So it's like Monday morning, I have to be ready to train. So I do have to come back on Sundays. And sometimes I even work on Sunday afternoons and I leave early and get back here and get exactly enough sleep to wake up to train wrestling, and just get right back into the week. And Fridays, it's like Fridays we have sparring. So Fridays during the daytime, I'm here in LA sparring at Black House. And then I have to get in the car and drive for 4 hours to work an 8-hour shift at nighttime.
We need you to get on that private plane. That's what you need.
Yeah, well, I was taking flights for a while, and I actually prefer driving. I was getting jet lagged with the flights.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. Yeah, I didn't like it at all. It was too much on my body, to be honest. I like the 4-hour drive. It's good decompression for me.
Well, see, I do the same thing. My day job, I travel throughout California for sales, and that's how I met Ed. Was I actually worked for a clothing company, and we sponsored Rafael Cavalcante Feijão, which was a Black House fighter. And so that's how I met Ed. And then we just stay in touch because we're neighbors. But I don't mind the drive. Like I always tell my wife, I'm like, if I have to go to Northern California or Vegas or down San Diego, it's a 2, 3, 4 hour drive. But once I get out of LA and if I'm just driving, cakewalk. But traffic sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, it took me a while to adjust to traffic when I first moved here from Ohio.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've lived all around, I lived in New York for a little while too, but I never drove in New York. They have such good train systems over there.
Yeah,
I just parked my car and took a train everywhere. So I never had to deal with the traffic. But yeah, there's nothing like LA traffic. It does take acclimating too, for sure.
Well,
you have to mentally prep yourself.
Yeah, it's funny because you're from Ohio. When my aunt and uncles come out, my aunt would be like, "Hey, so I want to go see your sister, and she lives in Santa Barbara." And I go, "Okay." She goes, "What time should I leave your place to get up there?" I go, "What day and what time are you planning on leaving?" Because if it's Friday at 4, well, that's a 3.5 hour drive. Mm-hmm. If it's a Friday at 10 in the morning, it could be a 2.5 hour drive.
Right.
It just depends, traffic wise. And it's people from Ohio or Midwest just don't get it.
No, and people come here to visit LA, and when they come to visit, in their minds they're like, there's so much cool stuff to do, and they want to do it all because it is. When you look at a map, you think that you can get all the way around LA, within a few hours, and it's just not true. I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you come over here, understand whatever you want to do, be there before 2 p.m.
Yeah, exactly.
You're camping out after 2 p.m. because you just don't want to be on the road during any of that traffic.
I have a buddy that lives north of London. He has an MMA podcast, and he was going to come out and visit, and he wanted to see all the gyms and everything. But he was going to stay in Bakersfield because he saw it was cheaper to stay in Bakersfield. I'm like, dude, that's 100 miles plus you got traffic. Once you don't want to stay up there. I mean, if you're coming down to see, the Black House gym or some of the other gym, I'm like, yeah, dude, this isn't England. It's going to take you 4 hours to get anywhere. It's just interesting.
Yeah. No, and it's true, but people don't know it until you're in it, and then when you're in it, you're frustrated, and then you want to get out of it, and then that's what causes all those crazy accidents, which causes more traffic. So
it's a double whammy.
It's better. It's a triple win. It's better just take your time, relax. Put on a good book, put on some of your favorite music, or have some laughs on the phone with your friends. Driving safely using Bluetooth. But,
I totally agree with you. Totally.
Yeah, I feel like being on the road is it's not bad if you're just prepared to know that this is going to be your experience,
I hear you. I
think I look at working out in the same light. I'm like, okay, this is going to be really, really, really bad. So if it's less than super bad, if it's only very bad, then I think we did good.
Yeah. If you get there under 4.5 hours, you're like, woohoo, I made it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So with all the time you spent on the road for basically the last decade doing fighting and entertaining, how has that affected your relationships with your friends and your families, loved ones? How do you balance all that?
Yeah, with loved ones, they've learned to just understand. And I think just being a fighter in general, this is a consistent struggle because fighters, like, if you're really good at what you do, you spend a lot of time doing it. And, the high level people talk about it all the time, and it's true. We do sacrifice a lot of time. We sacrifice birthdays and we sacrifice holidays and all those things to train and to do what we need to do. And it took my family a few years where they were like, okay, we get it now, because at first they'd be like, Vanessa, can't you just, take a few days off and just spend time with us? And, do you have to be on the road all the time? Do you always have to be working? And the answer was always yes. I do have to work. Yes, I do have to train. Because I've had my goals in mind, and now, like, they love it and they're proud of me and they appreciate the small times we do get to have together. So the time that you do spend together is a lot more valuable, because you're like, wow, like, this is really nice. And we know that we're not going to have this time for a while.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly how I take it too. The time
it is hard, but it's more valuable when you do get together.
When you're on the road, are there any specific apps that you use?
As far as what?
Well, for restaurants, for hotels. How do you find?
Like when I'm traveling around the cities and stuff. Well, there's nothing particular. I look at Hotwire, and thankfully for a lot of the cities that I go to, I'm very consistent. And thank you to the jiu-jitsu community, and thank you to the MMA world, where we are such a close community. It's not like an office job where you really don't know people, or a sales job. This is like, we all help each other, we're all here for each other. So usually I end up staying with friends when I travel around the country.
Oh, cool.
And that's like really, even like I went over to Abu Dhabi and I was fighting in Abu Dhabi, and I had friends out in Abu Dhabi that I could stay with. Like, and it's a whole experience where you're in a new place with friends who and they get to take you around and, show you the good spots to go eat and cool things like that. So being an MMA fighter, it's a really cool experience, when you look at it from that perspective, especially in jiu-jitsu. It's far more prominent in jiu-jitsu than in MMA.
The question I have for you then is, there is some infighting between gyms and family in jiu-jitsu. Have you found any of that? Or are they pretty cool?
I'm sorry?
There are some infighting among groups. Like, Gracie Baja might not like what the Gracie Academy is doing, or, some of the different cliques within the jiu-jitsu world. Have you seen
politics?
Yeah. Have you seen much of that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally a thing. And I think that it's a thing it's hard because, like, as people, we all love each other, but when we're competing against each other, it's different.
Right.
So, like, one of my very close friends is Raquel Canuto, and she fights for Checkmat, and I'm GF team. So we're supposed to be rivals, but we'll train together, and I will go and train at like a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Like, when it comes to competition, I represent a very specific team and a specific coach.
Yeah.
But we're all friends, honestly. Like, we've all been fighting each other for years. And in the jiu-jitsu community, there's really not a lot of animosity. In the MMA community, however, it's very different. Yeah, it's very different. Yeah. In MMA fighting, it's almost like, it's like war against humans each time, person to person.
Yeah.
But in jiu-jitsu, it's never personal.
Well, I mean, you have American Top Team. You have, you used to have TriStar, was a much bigger one. That St. Pierre. You got Black House. You got Jackson Wink
Mm-hmm.
in New Mexico. You have some big camps, and they tend not to like each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I've trained at quite a few camps around the country, even with MMA stuff.
Well, that's what I was asking. I was just curious if how that is.
Yeah, I've never noticed. Most of the time people are very welcoming. Like even I had to train up at TriStar when I was competing for jiu-jitsu, and we did some MMA stuff, and I trained with the fighters up there. And that was cool. For the most part, people are so welcoming and so nice and so kind. Unless you're like getting ready to fight someone out of their camp.
Yeah, then not so much.
Yeah. And if you guys weren't rivals before you walked into the gym, then people are extremely nice and very welcoming whenever you do arrive.
Because it was probably 5-6 years ago. I used to travel with my gi a lot. And because I'm up and down the state, and I didn't want to take a week off from training, so I'd asked to go in and do a walk-in, and most of them were very cool. But I was told by some other people that I had to be careful, and I'm like, be careful of what? Like, I'm not going in there trying to beat anybody up. I just want to go train.
Yeah. One thing, just out of a respect, I've learned not to walk into gyms with my patches on my back.
Right.
Those are my competition gis, the ones with the patches. And because that's a sign, that's like, hey, come beat me up. And a lot of people try to test their will against you, to see like, oh, how tough is she? Especially I'm a smaller girl. So guys, either they go one of two ways. One, they want to test me and see, am I actually tough? And two, they just like completely don't even give me the respect of actually training. Like they'll just kind of like,
even with a brown belt, you don't think
go so light on me. Yeah, well, in no-gi, you're not wearing a belt in no-gi.
That's true.
Yeah, and I try to tell people, but I'm small. I don't look like I'm very strong, but I'm very strong. So, I get told all the time, they're like, you're strong for a dude, let alone a chick. But yeah, it goes one two ways, and you just as someone who like now I've been doing this for so long that I can kind of just like feel people out when I go with them. But you do have to be careful, when you're traveling. If you're not a purple belt or above, whites and blues, they have a tendency to try to kind of hurt you a little bit, and if you're less experienced in jiu-jitsu, then you kind of don't understand what's happening, and you're not able to get hurt. So
I always tell people, yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
So, yeah.
I always tell people, I go, there can be jerks and nice people in gyms, no matter who you are, or you know what I mean? Very
true. Yeah, very true. Very true.
Whether you're a blue, purple, brown, some people.
I think there's also like this thing of like, you're walking into someone else's territory, and it's like, I'm not going to get beat up by an outsider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I rolled. I did one night of rolling at BJ Penn's in Hilo, and everyone was super cool there. I mean, and I was kind of worried because Hawaiians can be territorial just to begin with, but they were all super cool. So I don't know. And at the time I was training with the Gracies, and he didn't come from that lineage, so I was kind of worried. But everyone was super cool. So I think a lot of it's just if you act respectful, you get respect.
There you go. And that's the truth right there. If you give them that and you're coming in there with beginner mindset of I'm here, I just want to train, I just want to learn and enjoy this, then it's much different.
Yeah. How hard is it? Because I know you cut a little bit of weight to make straw weight. When you're working, basically 7 days a week, it sounds like. How important is diet to you, especially when you're on the road?
Yeah, diet is everything to me for a lot of reasons. Like, put the weight cut aside. I'm going so much physically and mentally and emotionally that what I choose to eat, I need to make sure is giving my body correct fuel and nutrition. Like, I can't be eating crap food all the time.
Yeah.
because I need to make sure that I can function for my next workout, that I can think clearly enough, and that like I'm going to get the ample amount of sleep. And that only comes from a balanced diet. And like diet is so important to me, whether I have a fight coming up or not. I always have a tendency to eat healthier because I care about my mental state and I care about my body function. So, but when I am cutting weight, it's actually almost harder for me because I do always eat healthy. So I don't have that like huge shift in my diet where my body's like, all right, now it's time to cut weight.
Right.
I'm always eating healthy. So cutting weight's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, because you're staying lean, pretty much.
I'm always lean.
Yeah. So I guess my last question for you is, with everything that's going on with the quarantine and the lockdown and the virus and all that, where does that put you with your MMA career? Other than, do you know what's going on yet?
Yeah, it was a huge frustration when it first happened, when the quarantine first happened. I was on a roll. I'm coming off a 3-fight win streak right now. I came off a huge win and I had just taken a small vacation. I was ready to get back in the gym. Like literally, I just got back to the gym that week and then boom, quarantine hit.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like all of this momentum is just halted. But I had to keep in mind, it's not just me. It's the whole entire country and it's the whole entire world for that matter. I mean, I had MMA fighters in Italy that I know, like BC Barbie, and you just see her working out in her living room every single day. Yeah. So I'm like, shit, all right. And they can't even leave their house. I at least have the luxury of going out and running around outside. So I had to shift my workouts and shift my mentality to everything that you're doing now is going to be very niche focused. It's going to be very detail oriented.
Yeah.
I don't have bodies to train with. So it's not like I'm, can use brute force or get by on just like being aggressive. Like I took this time to focus on detail and took this time to focus on specific technique and things like that. And honestly, I feel like I've improved during this quarantine, where a lot of other people I'm sure have been frustrated to the point where they didn't feel like they could do anything of growth. And I feel like I've really grown a lot because I shifted my mindset.
When do you think you'll fight next? I know UFC's got fights this weekend, or they got like 3 fights planned for the next couple of weeks or whatever. But do you have an idea?
I'm looking. I think as soon as LFA gets up rocking and rolling, that's when I'll be up rocking and rolling. So we're looking at June. Hopefully the beginning of June. I haven't heard anything though as far as like solidified confirmation, but that's kind of what they're hoping for. As soon as things are ready to go, LFA is going to be ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to want to jump the gun, just like the rest of the world is going to want to get on to whatever journey it is that they're on. So, I'm staying engaged. I'm getting my weight down. So my weight's coming back off again. And, I'm excited. I'm excited for the LFA to get rocking.
Well, I know, I don't know if you listened to the episode, but Ed said, he's still planning on doing the 20 shows that he had committed to with ESPN and all that. So now it's just, instead of being spread over 12 months, he's going to have to squeeze them in. So hopefully you'll.
Yeah.
Are you planning on getting 1 or 2 more fights? Obviously, if you were fighting June, would you try and get a fight before the end of the year, or do you know?
Oh, hell yeah. I would do 3 fights if they let me. I'd fight every other week if they let me.
Well, as long as you don't crack your orbital bone again.
As long as I don't crack my orbital bone again. Oh my goodness. So I even had a jiu-jitsu competition a few weeks after my MMA fight was scheduled. And I was in the back with the commissioners telling them about my jiu-jitsu tournament. And I was like, you guys have to let me compete. They're like, you are not competing. They made me take a video and saying that I would not compete in the jiu-jitsu tournament. But that's who I am, though. I'm a fighter. There was
how it works, right?
That's exactly how it works. I broke my ACL one time, and I had 2 MMA fights in that 1 month. So it's, this is what I live for.
How do you?
I know I'm not normal, but
I was going to say, well, that goes without saying, though. Your nickname's Little Monster. I mean, come on, that's not normal,
right? Hello.
So that's a dead giveaway. What do you? I know you. I've seen in interviews you want to obviously UFC or Bellator. I would think it's UFC, but you want to move up, right, into the next category. Have you given yourself a time frame of when that needs to happen, or are you just kind of plugging along and doing what you got to do?
Well, to be honest, I was hoping for the end of the year for myself into the UFC. And I think with this quarantine, I don't know. I think timelines are out the window. And if there's anything that I've learned, in all the years of training and fighting and competing and going through the belts with jiu-jitsu, it's enjoy exactly where you are, period, because you're not going to be there forever, first. And second, once you hit that next ring of whatever that process looks like, there is no going back. So, I know that everyone's always in a hurry to get to the UFC, and trust me, I'm anxious, but also I appreciate where I'm at because I can enjoy this part of the process. I can enjoy the growth and getting that, because once you get to the meat grinders, there's no turning back. You better be fucking ready when you get there.
Yeah.
So, and I am ready. But however the process unfolds for me, trust me, I'm enjoying exactly where I am too.
Well, I think how important do you think that is? Because I know not just fighters, but even business people, they look at the end goal and say, if I don't make it to the UFC, or if I don't, hit the sales goal, my life sucks and it wasn't worth it. Whereas I think people that enjoy it along the way do a lot better in the end run. But what's your thought on that?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
I love that question. Thank you, because it's really important to me. We should not identify ourselves by our achievements ever. When you identify yourself by your achievements, you end up A, stressing out, and B, this is what causes a lot of, depressions and everything in people's lives. We need to just enjoy ourselves as people and, be accomplished in who we are rather than what we do. And I love what I do, but it's because I love it that I can enjoy the process. And it's not about the goals. I want the fucking goals. I will be the UFC champion
you
one
want
day.
The strap.
I want the strap. Give me the strap. But along that process, I love myself more. And that's why I can do all the things that I do.
Okay. I'm signed up. I'm good. I love that. I just think mentality, because, I tell people my podcast is my secondary thing. But I had my best year ever last year because I wasn't just so worried about my day-to-day sales and all that, because I was thinking about my podcast. So it kind of freed me up a little bit mentally. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's kind of the same way. Do you think your entertaining kind of does that for you because you're always so busy with other things, whether it's writing the book or actually entertaining and driving, and you spend a lot of time driving.
I do spend a lot of time driving. Yeah, I have really bad ADHD, like the worst of that ADHD. So,
but at least you admit it. I think that's part of that's the good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it helps me to be able to recognize when I'm being wildly impulsive and all of that. But
exactly.
Yeah, I'm very I'm so headline focused. I have blinders on and whatever it is that I'm doing. And it's a good thing, but it's good for me to be able to switch those hats, amongst being a dancer and being a fighter and being an author, because it lets me just kind of be free in those things and give it my 100% attention, and then not get frustrated, because I can just move on to the next thing, to the next career for a little bit and kind of give myself those mental breaks in between.
Totally.
It's perfect. It's such a perfect storm, and I love the way that it's set up right now.
It sounds like you got the mentality right, which I think that's super important. Obviously, I don't know how many people actually work on that though. I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I was just going to say thank you very much. That's a huge compliment.
Well, I think, and I'm a dumb guy too, so I admit to it. We get focused in, I got to train, I got to eat, blah, blah, blah. We don't think about the mental part of it as much, I don't think. Until we get good, and then we have a coach that tells us to get your mind right.
I don't think I had the luxury of not getting my mental state together. For myself, it's like I was diagnosed with so many things as a teenager, and I was on so many medications. Yeah, I mean, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, ADHD, which is just wild in itself, as well as extreme bipolar disorder.
But besides that, you're totally normal.
Aside from that, though, I was gonna chill.
I was gonna say that just makes you a female, but whatever.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well I can see why your wife might call you some other names sometimes. Oh, good joke. Yeah, but I was on so many medications, and I didn't want to be. I wanted to try to figure it out. So I promised myself. I said, "You're either going to stay on these medications for life, or you're going to figure it out." And I had to read books. And I had to, watch all the YouTubes and listen to the experts on how to control yourself and your emotions and, what it means to be mentally strong and brave and vulnerable and all those things. So being honest is like with myself is huge. And, that's like a huge part of my strength as a fighter too, is the mental game.
Yeah. I think that's because you're a brown belt in jiu-jitsu as well. Because that's a chess of martial arts, I guess, is what my instructors always told me. It's like a chess game.
Yeah,
you're always just trying. You're just trying. Your next 3 moves, so now you got to work on your next 5 moves.
Mm-hmm. So absolutely, it is. It's a physical chess game for sure. Because somebody else is, they're trying to play checkmate to you, and you're playing checkmate on them. And sometimes you guys each have each other checkmate. That does happen too. Double leg locks.
No kidding. Knees and ankles. My jiu-jitsu instructor said, infamously, he goes, "You know why I'm better than you?" I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because I've tapped out more than you. Mm-hmm. I've lost more times than you have."
Absolutely.
Like, wow. That was Hoist Gracie. I'm like, okay. Like,
wow.
What do you mean? What do you mean you lost?
Yeah.
So
and it's true. I would rather get tapped out 100 times in the gym, because then that means that A, I have good training partners, and B, it shows me the things that I need to work on and get better at. And you can't grow without your failures. And I think a lot of people in business get frustrated with that portion of it. Because you have to fail, but you have to fail forward, and allowing your failures, to disrupt your progress, because your failures are your progress.
Absolutely. Do you think your life entertaining dancing helped you in your fighting career?
100%.
And how?
100%.
Because I agree with that. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, I think in so many aspects, from a physical standpoint, both of them are physically taxing. You need to be agile and flexible and fluid in your motions. You need to be able to think fast as a dancer. I have to be able to understand where my body is and what I'm trying to do. And I have to, make it look fluid. And if you're up on a stage in front of hundreds of people, and you slip and you fall, and you have to continue on with your motions because the show must go on. And it gets me comfortable in being in large crowds of people and entertaining, because when you're a fighter, a lot of people, they do really well in the gym and then they flop once they're on the stage because they're not used to that. And I am. That's a strength of mine. So as well as, dealing with people, I'm really big on studying human behavior. That's just a personal thing that I love so much. And human behavior as an entertainer is really, really big for me. And it's what caused me to have such success. And I do the same thing. I just take it over into the fighting realm. So yeah, being a dancer, I think it has strengthened me in so many more ways than people could ever even realize.
And I was thinking that because my wife was a cocktail waitress in Las Vegas for 18 years. And she says the same thing. Her ability to read people is just heightened because of, she did it 5-6 days a week. And
Yep.
Working on tips and, so that's
and human subtleties are a thing. You have to know how to pick up on that. And I don't know if that's tangible or intangible, but, I know that you can work on it a little bit, but some people are just really good at reading others.
And other people become accountants. Yeah. I mean,
I've heard that being ADHD is really good for sales. So that's what I went for.
Hey, let me ask you this one question. I don't know. You said I could ask you anything.
Sure.
Sponsorships. How do you go about getting sponsorships? I mean, do you do it? Does your manager do it? Does the gym oversee some of that? I mean, because you're really good to talk to. So, I mean, you have the personality, you have the looks, you got it all, and you're winning. So,
thank you. A lot of the sponsorships come from people reaching out, through Instagram or from knowing me or knowing someone who knows me. And it's a lot of my hustling as well. I'll see companies and I'll personally reach out to them and ask them for sponsorships and ask them, if they sponsor MMA athletes. And as far as management goes, currently I'm not exclusively signed, but I have people who are helping to guide me through the process. So it's like if I have a company, I'll call them up and I'll ask for help and see what they think and how that process looks.
Okay.
So yeah, when you're a new fighter, you're kind of your own business owner as well. Because we're personally like a walking business. So it's a lot to juggle, but you have to do it. And because this is my life.
Well, let me ask you this question, because I think you get that part. Whereas I think I've talked to a lot of fighters, not about on my podcast, but in life, they don't look at themselves as a personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
They look at themselves as, well, I'm a fighter, or I have a lot of cowboy friends. They're like, I'm not a brand. I'm just a guy that rides a horse, and I do this. I'm like, no, dude, you gotta. I had a bullfighter. It was a really good friend of mine. I was at his wedding, and he just never got it. So, how important do you think that is to understand that you are a brand of what you can bring to a sponsor?
It's everything.
Yeah,
it's everything because. You could be a really great fighter, but there's a lot of really great fighters.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the way that our industry is shifting. Fighters in the UFC, they're not just great athletes. They have to be able to speak. They have to be able to do interviews. They have to be marketable. They have to use their internet platforms, their social media platforms to push other products. And being a fighter is more than being a fighter. And I've always thought this from the beginning, but it's becoming more prominent now. I've seen extremely talented martial artists not make it because they didn't get the concept of you have to also be marketable. And it fucking sucks to say that, it really does.
I've seen it too.
And yeah, I wish that we could just get up and punch people in the face and that's that. I could shave my head bald and never have to worry about
braids
and just be a savage all day long. But
Rose does that.
You have to be all inclusive. Who?
Rose
Namajunas does do that. Yeah.
It shaves her head. It's like, no, I'm good.
Shaves her head. But yeah, you got to be so much more than just someone who can be aggressive and fight well, because everybody can fight well at this stage. A lot of people know what they're doing as far as martial art, but what more are you bringing to the table?
Yeah, see, I totally agree with that. And I just don't know that a lot of MMA fighters get that.
Right.
Maybe you could write.
Or they get lost in it too. They get lost in the whole, shining bright lights, and they forget that you actually have to train hard. So I've seen the opposite.
Well, and Ed and I talked about this on our podcast. And I've talked to him prior to that, but when fighters get up to that level, and if the UFC, Dana says, hey, if she wins this next fight, she's going to get the title shot. Well, that might change the way you fight, because you might not take the risk to go for the armbar if you know you're up on points, because you want the title shot, because that's what pays. Or you might just fight safe. So he also talked about how fighters, when they get up to that level, sometimes they forget about doing the interviews and about doing the same things that got them to where they're at, and then they dip off.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to hear you say the same thing.
No, absolutely. I've always had that, in my perspective, in my mind. And it's even when I was in Ohio, and I think that's one of the reasons why I got invited to come out to California was a little bit of, one, my fighting skill, but two, my mindset too. It's like I was doing all this stuff that, all the people do at the higher levels from Ohio, like in a little, in a little shell all by myself, because I care. Like this is my life and I'm passionate about it. So I study it and I love it. And I want to do all the aspects. It's an honor to be able to do all the small things for the thing that I love the most.
Well, I don't know that a lot of fans, the casual fans, realize that in the amateur fights, I mean, you would, or maybe not amateur, but even the smaller promotional fights, a lot of your income, fighters' income, comes from how many tickets they sell. Mm-hmm. Well, you sell tickets that people want to come see you fight, and they want to come see you fight if you relate to them on social media and other platforms and all that.
Yeah, so,
it's no different. I mean, if you're doing stuff like this, which I truly appreciate, but you do a lot of stuff. So I think people are going to want to see you because they want to see you succeed. And then LFA or UFC is going to see that and obviously want to promote it as well. I think you got to go.
Thank you. I hope so. Hey, I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. I'm a team player. Let's go. I want to push the promotions too. It's a team effort,
It really is too. I mean, I don't know if Ed told me, I think he's got 14 or 15 full-time employees total. And you're like, that's not a lot for doing 20 plus shows around the country. So
Right. And trust me, they're always working, like always. But yeah, it's very impressive what the LFA accomplishes. And
now you're it. So I'm excited to watch your next fight now. So
thank you.
What's the best way? I watched 4 of your fights, and that's why I was saying I've never seen anybody pull guard so much. I was like, wow, she's getting hit in the head, but she's still pulling guard.
Yeah, let's get the whole jiu-jitsu community cheering for me, because I think that's like as jiu-jitsu as it gets right there.
I was like,
guard in MMA fights.
If you think, and I don't know how long you've been watching MMA or how much because some fighters don't watch MMA because they're training, but like Damian Maia is the only guy I ever saw pull guard like that.
Woo! Female Damian Maia right here coming through.
Damn.
Woo! I'm all right with that. I'll take it.
We got to get your black first, and your black belt, and then you'll be a fascia preta, and then we'll go from there.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Step 1, black belt. Got it.
You'll get there. Hey,
wonderful.
So thank you so much for the time. What's the best way for my listeners to kind of follow you and see what you got going on? What social media sites you want people to...
Lil Monster, hard to forget. LIL, Lil Monster Demo. DEMO, like demolition. So Lil Monster Demo on IG, and that's pretty much where I'm the most live.
Okay.
So that's where everybody can come and find me.
Perfect. So I will direct everybody there. I'll make sure it's on the website. And man, good luck. I'm so excited to see your future.
Thanks for having me on the show. You really helped to open up my mind too to a lot of different things, small details and stuff that I didn't realize I was really doing, and bringing that stuff to light. I appreciate it.
We'll talk when you make it into the UFC, when you have another fight or something.
Heck yeah, totally.
Done.
We'll totally make that happen.
I'll come over to Gardena and watch you train at Black House.
Yay!
So
sounds great.
That'll let me in.
Friday sparring. That's the best time to come through.
Done. This Friday? No, on Fridays.
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on a second. There's no mass gatherings. We can't do gatherings yet. So stupid. So, anyways,
thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Vanessa. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. We'll talk.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.